a blessed day. For this video, I will tell the story of Joseph, son of Jacob, according to the Old Testament. Joseph or Joseph was the 11th of the 12 sons of Jacob. According to the biblical narrative, he was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, but rose to become the most powerful man in Egypt after Pharaoh. He then brought his entire family down to Egypt, where they were settled in the land of Goshen.
The Bible relates the birth of Joseph at Genesis chapter 30, verse 22 to 24. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, May the Lord add to me another son. The verse gives two explanations of Joseph's name. The first, from the Elohist source, bases it on the root meaning taken away, while the second, from the Yahweh cites the similar root meaning add. Joseph was the 11th of the 12 sons of Jacob and the first of the 2 sons of Rachel. He was favorite son of his father, who arrayed him in a coat of many colors. But his brother's hatred was excited by his father's favoritism and Joseph's own dreams, which predicted that they would one day bow down to him, according to Genesis chapter 37, verse 2 to 11. From slavery to viceroy. One day, when Joseph was 17, his brothers plotted to kill him, but Reuben, the eldest brother, advised them to throw Joseph into a pit, intending to rescue him later. And so the brothers stripped Joseph of the coat of many colors and threw him into the pit. A caravan of Ishmaelites passed by, and Judah, another of the brothers, suggested that they sell Joseph to the merchants. Some Midianites were passing by and took Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and they took him to Egypt. When Reuben came back to the pit, he found Joseph gone. The brothers dipped Joseph's coat in the blood of a goat and showed it to Jacob, who mourned for Joseph, believing him dead. The Midianites or Ishmaelites sold Joseph to Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Potiphar appointed Joseph superintendent of his household, and they both prospered. But Potiphar's wife conceived a passion for Joseph, and when her advances were repulsed, brought a false accusation against him before her husband, and Joseph was thrown into prison. The warden put Joseph in charge of the other prisoners, and soon afterwards Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, who had offended the king, were thrown into the prison. One morning, they both told Joseph their dreams of the previous night, which they were unable to interpret. And Joseph told them that the chief cupbearer would be reinstated within 3 days, but that the chief baker would be hanged. Joseph requested the cupbearer to mention him to Pharaoh and secure his release from prison, but the cupbearer, reinstalled in office, forgot Joseph. After Joseph was in prison for 2 years, Pharaoh had several dreams which disturbed him. He dreamt of 7 lean cows which rose out of the river and devoured 7 fat cows, and of 7 withered ears of grains which devoured 7 fat ears. Pharaoh's wise men were unable to interpret these dreams, but the chief cupbearer remembered Joseph and spoke of his skills to Pharaoh. Joseph was called for and interpreted the dreams as foretelling that 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of famine, and advised Pharaoh to store surplus grains during the years of abundance. Before Joseph was 30 years old, Pharaoh made him viceroy over Egypt, renamed him Zapanapaneah, and married him to Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. Joseph had 2 sons with Asenath, Manasseh and Ephraim, and Egypt became prosperous under his care. The years of famine arrived, and people came from the surrounding lands to Egypt to buy grains. Among those who came were 10 of Joseph's 11 brothers, the youngest Benjamin remaining with their father Jacob in Canaan. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Joseph received them roughly and accused them of being spies, and sent them back to their father, demanding that they return with Benjamin. And so the brothers returned to Jacob in Canaan, with Reuben lamenting that they had not listened to him and spared the life of their brother Joseph. Jacob sent his sons again to Egypt for grain, as Joseph had commanded them not to appear before him again without Benjamin. Jacob was compelled to let Benjamin go with them, and they were amazed when this time the viceroy received them kindly and took them to feast in his own house, inquiring after their father and their youngest brother Benjamin. But while they feasted, Joseph gave orders to his servants to fill their sacks with the weight and put his silver goblet in Benjamin's sacks. On the following morning the brothers departed, but before they had gone far, a messenger overtook them, accusing them of stealing the goblet. And when the messenger searched for their sacks, he found the goblet in Benjamin's sack and ordered them to return. In front of Joseph, whom he still did not know, Judah pleaded that Benjamin be allowed to return to his father, and he himself kept in Benjamin's place. Overcome by Judah's appeal, Joseph disclosed himself to his brothers, assuring them that in treating him as they did, they had been carrying out the will of God. He then urged them to return home quickly and bring all their families to Egypt to live in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh, when he heard of this, rejoiced and gave to Joseph and his brothers the best that Egypt could offer. And so Jacob and all his family came to Egypt, 70 persons plus their wives, all except for Joseph and his sons settled in the land of Goshen. Then Joseph presented Jacob and 5 of his brothers to Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh.